On January 26th, Nintendo World Report will be hosting our 9th charity live stream to support Child's Play starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The more you donate, the longer we stream with over 12 hours of content available if we can hit our goal of $4,000. Donations are open now, so don't wait. Donate now so you don't forget. For more information and to donate, click the link in the description. And don't forget to join us here on NWR TV on January 26th for the all-day stream. Alright, now back to the video.
Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage. It's that time again to get comfortable, crack open a cold one, and talk about some RPGs. This week we've got plenty to talk about, from some 10-year-old port to some new postmodern tales. January has given us plenty to get excited about. But before we get too deep, let's introduce our cast for the evening. I am your host, David Lloyd, and joining us tonight, starting off with one of the Triforce of review editors, and the Thirsty Mage regular, Mr. Jordan Rudek.
Hi, David. I guess we can still say Happy New Year because we haven't. This is our first podcast of the year, so Happy New Year to you and to all of our listeners, I guess. And yeah, excited to kick off 2019 here.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Our last episode, we essentially reviewed all of 2018, so it's all in the past now.
That's right.
New pod, new year.
Yeah, lots of games to play.
And it was. I guess it was a little short of a year ago today that James took the bullet for our next guest with the 5-hour marathon episode. He's the news editor for NWR and first-time patron here, Mr. Donald Theriault.
Hi, glad to finally be here and not have to worry about a snowstorm knocking out my ability to get to the bar.
Exactly. It's much better weather where you are this time around.
Yeah, it's been sunny for about the last week, and it looks like it's going to stay that way.
That's good. It's always nice when you don't get a hurricane in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
And capping off the panel, representing the Triforce of Power in the NWR review editing trinity, he's the owner of Nintendo World Report and the lone American this evening, Mr. Neal Ronaghan.
Oh Lord, I didn't realize. Does that mean I need to add U's in a bunch of places and say a boot?
Throw a couple y'alls just to so that it doesn't sound too Canadian.
I'll have to up my y'all quotient for the evening. But I mean, we can all agree on Tim Hortons, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Get some Timbits.
Attaboy,
Get like the bacon on the donut and the maple. That's good. That's Canadian.
It's the beginning of the Canadian takeover.
Yeah.
I'd give it a C+.
The first wave.
There is an increasing amount of Tim Hortons in Jersey. It's been they've been in New York City for a while, but there's a couple that I've seen sprout up in Jersey. So it's happening. The Hortoning
epidemic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, do they put nicotine in the coffee like they do up here?
Is that legitimately what they do?
That's a Canadian secret, Neal. We'd have to, if we told you, we'd have to kill you.
All right.
That's what they're talking about on the street. Well, speaking of drinks, how about we go through what everyone is drinking tonight? Maybe we'll start with Jordan, who's probably got the least alcoholic of the bunch.
Yeah, you're right. And unfortunately, no nicotine in my drink either. Maybe fortunately. So I'm very, very, very lactose intolerant. And so one of the things I had to give up as a result is hot chocolate. And I love me some hot chocolate. Like I would, have that during cold days, without fail all the time. So I was kind of disappointed to find that not a lot of companies or not, you go to the grocery store and you don't see any hot chocolate mixes with without dairy in them. I tried making my own one time and that was a disaster, so I didn't try that again. But getting to the point here, I found on Amazon a plant-based hot chocolate. So obviously I ordered that, always a little skeptical, it's not obviously not going to be the same thing, but man, it is awfully close and it certainly hits the spot. So I'm having some plant-based, vegan, dairy-free hot chocolate. That's me.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's actually really close to the actual thing. It's not as sweet. or I guess creamy as well, but it does the job. So, and I've learned to kind of cope with, for how it's not that bad, but deal with having fewer things with dairy in them. And this one is definitely one of those where I'm not really giving up that much. It's pretty good. So thrilled to find that, and definitely gonna be having more of that.
Cool.
Have you looked into? I'm pretty sure that the Tim Hortons hot chocolate does not have dairy in it, but I could be wrong.
I'll check on that. Man, there's not a lot on the Tim Hortons menu that doesn't have dairy in it. So, like, all the donuts, like, all the, obviously, any, like, kind of the coffee, drinks, lattes and stuff have milk. But if you're saying that, David, now I'm intrigued. I'm going to have to go and take another look. Maybe that one's safe for me, too. And if it is safe, man, that's going to kill my wallet, because I'm going to be hitting that. I've got a Tim Hortons just by my place, and, well, we probably all do. But I'm going to be hitting that on the regular if their hot chocolate does not have dairy.
Just better double check that. I could be wrong.
You may have doomed me here. This is not a good start to 2019.
I've got some upstairs, and I'm pretty sure it didn't have dairy, but don't quote me on that one.
You can put it in the show notes now. If it doesn't have dairy, every podcast from this point on, that's what I'm going to be drinking. So might as well just write it down now.
For the extra special episodes, you can even throw some Baileys in there.
Oh, that's doable for sure.
So, Donald, what will you be having at the pub on your first out to the Thirsty Mage?
Well, due to various family things, I have trouble with alcohol and sugary drinks, so I'm dipping into a lighter brew from the Allen and Wright Brewery.
Well done, Donald.
Yeah, you might be more familiar with them for their burgers and fries, but yeah, they do a pretty good root beer.
Oh,
for sure. Yeah, I've definitely had that on the podcast.
I was like, wait, what's that? And I'm like, wait, A and W O.
He tricked the host on his first out.
A dub is the truth when it comes to root beer. So,
all right. Well, I know Neal is definitely drinking alcohol.
Yeah,
he never lets me down.
I look forward to it. It gives me an excuse to drink, usually late night on a weekday, which is probably bad. But I'm drinking. It's a repeat for the Mage. Actually, it's because it's an old standby. I actually listened to part of the Radiant Historia talk that we did, and I probably, if I didn't listen to that, I would have gone into the same diatribe that I'm going to go into now, but avoid it with the Dogfish Head Namaste White that I'm drinking. Dogfish Head is in Delaware. I don't know if they've gotten international. I think they're spreading more and more through America. They're a sizable brewery. But this is just like, it's a very easy, wit beer. And I like it. It's got orange flesh and peel. It's got lemongrass. It's got some coriander, some peppercorns, and, the most important ingredient, good karma.
It's the most wonderful spice.
Yeah.
Well, for myself, had stouts on before. I've never had this one. This is called Le Corriveau. It is an oatmeal stout from Les Microbrasseries Bilboquet out from St. Hyacinthe, Quebec. So this is like I said, it's an oatmeal stout. It has a little bit of espresso and dark chocolate, a little bit of a tang to it, and won the World's Best Style winner in 2016 at the World Beer Awards. That's what caught my eye. I'm looking up and down the beer, and I saw the big slap of beer award winner on the label, and I'm like, well, this has got to be good.
I was looking up and down the beer. I saw its label was just showing a little too much.
Especially since I actually had planned to drink an old favorite of mine as well, the Scotch Ale, but it didn't make it past the weekend. All right, well, it's time to get into some RPG talk. Neal has he's going to kick us off with a new indie RPG.
So by the time we're recording this, my review is going to go live in less than 12 hours, I think. By the time you listen to this, my review will be out in the wild. It is for YIIK, a postmodern RPG, which is from developer Axe Studios and published by a New Zealand publisher that I don't know how to pronounce their name. It's like Earsbird or something like that. But it's been in development for a very long time. I think one of the first PAX East that I ever went to, I saw Y2K, or no, it was the previous game. It was Two Brothers, which was an action RPG that I think might have come out on Wii U. But Y2K has been in development since I think 2013-ish, somewhere around there. So Y2K is an RPG that definitely is inspired by Earthbound, but also a lot of other games. Like I got some Persona, Shin Megami Tensei vibes. I think that the one deep cut that I was playing the game and it kind of bothered me. I was like, there's something that it reminds me of. And I saw the developer mention online that like, oh yeah, Shadow Hearts was an influence, which if anybody's played Shadow Hearts, cool. This has an inspiration by it, and some of the battle mechanics are very similar to Shadow Hearts. But it has that kind of like bizarro world feel. And the way to kind of like the napkin elevator pitch of this game could be like, oh, it's like hipster Earthbound. But as I played it, that kind of maybe fell apart a little bit. Like you do have like the main character wears flannel. It takes place in New Jersey in the year 1999. Like it has a lot of those hipstery overtones. He uses vinyl records as an attack, but it has this weird like philosophically musing story that kind of has a really like depressing dour turn to it that isn't totally hopeless, because the character, like the main character, does kind of, you know, undergo growth and goes from kind of, you know, being a generic liberal arts major who's like a 20-something who just got out of college after taking too long and doesn't know what to do with his life, but doesn't really want to have to work too hard. He undergoes growth from it and then actually gets to a point where he wants to save the world. And there's all this stuff with alternate realities and these weird creatures called entities that look like starmen if they were like put through a demonic filter. And the art style is all in this kind of like early like PS1 N64 look, but it looks a little more polished by that, and the way it animates is really neat. The battle system is a turn-based, timing-based system that might rely a little too heavily on minigame-based attacks. So like for Alex, the main character, for his vinyl attack, there's a lot of button taps that you need to have, like so there will be a record spinning around and you need to time your button presses, and if you mess up a button press, then it ends, but you can keep it going for quite a while. Other characters, like there's a character who uses a camera for attacks, so that's like a film or a camera reel unfurls, and then there's some button presses you need to make in there. Another character has a sword that you need to hold down a button, wait for it to get to a point, and release with good timing. And if you do it with great timing, then you'll attack every enemy. And there's a minigame associated with every normal attack, with every defense, with every special attack. And I feel like they could maybe use a better way to explain all that, in a way to maybe streamline it as you go on. But I also found that combat isn't as much a focus in this game. There's stretches where just the story takes over. And the story is a little maybe overwritten at times. There's a lot of like just huge bouts of exposition, but it's kind of compelling and interesting. And I'm not going to get into it here, for the game is barely out by the time you'd be listening to this. But it goes places in the back half, and it has one of the stronger video game endings in a game that I've played in a very, very long time. So, I know, Donald, when I was posting the review, you wrote a preview for this like 15 years ago at a PAX East.
Yeah, and it was the second preview because we had one from, I think, Zach the year before.
Yeah, because that would have been, 2016, I think, is when that... Because that was when it was supposed to come out then. Like, I know the demo that I've played... Because I think the year that you went, you actually played, like, the intro to the game.
Yeah, and I was wondering how... And you seemed to explain how it would come together at the end, but I played the demo... I took the demo on a PS4, and... Yeah, it seemed pretty straightforward, but this was still back when it was a Wii U game, and their stance on is it coming to Switch was, we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Which slowly became releasing a Wii U game in 2019 is stupid. Like, that's where we're at right now.
So considering we already have two previews on the site, it's, you know, it kind of made sense for me I played it at PAX West in 2018. And I was trying to do as many previews as I could, but I just didn't get around to that one. It seems like we already had a lot of coverage anyways. The demo I played was made specifically for PAX West. Like, it was...
Yeah, Cape Juno or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me.
It's a Jersey joke, because we've got a place called Cape May. Get it?
Okay.
Cape Juno.
There you go.
This game is filled with things that, like, I saw as someone who has been born and raised in Jersey, and I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. And then I realized, I'm like, no one else is going to get this.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even given a second thought. It just seemed like a name to me. But I wanted to ask you about the battle system, Neal, because anytime we get an RPG with a timing attack-based battle system, we have to think about Super Mario RPG, you know, which is one of the first games to do that. And I wonder, you said the combat isn't that much of a focus. That seems funny to me, that you would have a timing-based turn-based attack or combat system, but then the combat not be the focus. Those things kind of seem to be at odds with each other. It's weird, because, like, you definitely do combat a lot, and I think I remember talking to the developer. It's two brothers who are the main developers. One of the brothers, I think Andrew, is the one that is usually going to events. I remember talking to him, and he made a point about how, like, you know, they have a more involved battle system, and initially the dungeons had too many battles in them. And playing through those dungeons now, like, they're very carefully paced. Where it's not paced is when you're exploring on the overworld. There's, like, random battles as you're exploring on the overworld, which is like this adorable, it's Jersey on its side, and you have like a big 8-bit character going around this area. But those are random battles that, like, those can get really grating. It's relatively easy to run away from a battle, which I did a lot more as I got near the end. But in the dungeons, it's pretty well paced. Like, you're going through puzzles, you have story bits, and you have combat, and you know, neither of them really dominates that much. I'm largely positive on this game. I think there's a lot to like. I think it's also a game that's probably better than the sum of its parts. Just for our listeners out there who might be interested in turn-based RPGs, but not necessarily the action combat or the timing-based combat. Like, are you, like, severely punished if you're not hitting those inputs at the right time, or is the combat is it difficult throughout the game? Are you grinding? I don't think so. The combat itself, there's a lot of really good workarounds for it, but maybe not good. There's escape valves. There is a character who's a pacifist, who his attack is he'll, like, basically be a knight for people and, like, defend for them. Like, that's his attack. Okay. He has a move that's talk, that I use this on, like, damn near final bosses, and you talk to the character, and then, like, the battle ends. That sounds awesome. I love that. And I never had it fail. And I used to... Because I'd basically get to a point where I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with this battle right now. And then I'd be like, oh, I'll bring in Rory and have him use his talk ability. And no joke, I did it on, like, the second to last battle. It was just like, the dude's like, I'm gonna leave. Like, we're cool now.
So that's the hipster part of the hipster Earthbound, I guess, eh?
Yeah. I don't know if that's, like, what you want to do. Maybe that, I don't know if that's purposeful. But it definitely makes the game a little more enjoyable, because I think that the battle system's a little punishing. So you have, like, most of them are relatively simple. Like, it's either hold down a button, release, or tap, like, 3 or 4 buttons. Alex, the main character, is, like, super involved. Like, I could nail, like, 20 to 25 hit combos with his vinyl attack, and that would be using, like, there's a slowdown mechanic where, like, as you get hit, you have a bar that builds up, and then you can use that to slow down the timing. So that way, with that one, you can basically mash the button whenever it's on a spot of the record that you can tap and get big combos. But what was frustrating is that, like, if I got, like, an 8-hit combo or a 25-hit combo, it would go from, like, 8 damage to, like, 14 damage, maybe at best, where it's like, that was a lot of effort to get a combo that big, and I feel like that, like, there's a little off in what the reward is for that. Conversely, if you mess up a lot, you're like not going to do any damage. So it's punishing in that regard. Like I'm also, and I'll talk about it in more detail later, but I'm also playing Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story on 3DS right now. And the thing with that is that if you're really bad at the timing, you still do damage. Like that's a great thing about Mario and Luigi, is that it's like if you're good at the timing, the game's really easy. It's not like if you're bad at the timing, the game's super hard. And I feel like Y2K, if you're bad at the timing, the game is almost impossible. And if you're good at the timing, it's just what it should be.
That's interesting. Is the story fully linear, or is there any exploration involved?
Oh, it kind of gets to one of the dopiest but best parts of the game is the loose story setup is that like the main character stumbles upon a factory near his town where he runs into this woman who seems like she's totally displaced, like she doesn't know what an elevator is, for example. And then you see her get taken away by the scary like demonic starmen creatures. And then you're like, okay, I saw this supernatural paranormal thing, and then you find a website called Onism 1999 that is basically just built like an old message board, and that's where you get all your side quests. And like, it's really funny to go like boot up a computer in the universe and then go into this website, and then you're scrolling through an ancient message board to go like, all right, like, yeah, there's an alien appeared over by this lake. I'm gonna go there. And that's how side quests are doled out. But that's really the only spot where it kind of varies. Like, you can explore the map. There's some secrets that, like on my playthrough, like there's stuff that, like there's a building that you can't get into that I think you can. I looked at the PlayStation trophies and it says that you can open that door. I don't know how you open it, but so there's more stuff than what I've done. I think there might even be like a second ending if you 100% everything, but I'm not totally sure.
It sounds like there's a ton of content here. Like, I'm really excited about this game. I'm glad they took their time with it. I know we were supposed to get it a couple years ago. I remember being at PAX with my brother, and every time we'd go to the Indie Mega booth or somewhere else on the PAX floor and see this game, like, oh, it still looks awesome, still super excited for when it comes out, and we've just been waiting for so long. But it sounds like it's going to pay off, and that there's tons of stuff to do, and the game is a lot of fun. So people should really look forward to your review coming out soon, Neal.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess as far as length goes, like it's a $20 game. I probably critical pathed it a little more than most people since I was doing it for review. It took me 20 hours, and I easily could go back in there and polish up some side quests and stuff and spend another 5.
That's a good length.
Sounds like about an Earthbound on a good day.
Yeah, like it's a game that has its problems, but I think that the soul and style of this game is great. And also the soundtrack is fantastic. And I didn't know until it was near the end of the game, Toby Fox did some songs for Y2K, and so did awesome. Hiroki Kikuta, who did the music for Secret of Mana. And even with that in mind, like some of the stuff just by one of the brothers who made the game, he did most of the soundtrack, and that stuff is just like good, weird, like Earthboundy, like it sounds like normal music, but it's slightly off, which is something that I always really appreciated of the Earthbound soundtracks, is that it always like felt like it's so close to being just a normal song, but it's not. And that's how a lot of Y2K feels as well. And part of the reason, I don't know how circulated this got, the main reason why this game got delayed for like 2 years is because the two brothers who made the game, their mom died. So not to make anybody feel bad, but like that's essentially the reason why the game got delayed.
Yeah,
is totally that their mom fell into. There was an article, it might have been on like a Variety's gaming site or something like that. There was some write up on it back in the fall, kind of covering the whole experience, and it was like, yeah, their mom started getting sick, so they started working from home and taking care of their mom, and then she passed away, and they basically like didn't work on the game for a while because like they couldn't, and they apparently went back and redid parts of it. I think they tried to like make elements of it a little more uplifting. But man, I want more people to finish this game because it just does so many cool things in the last act that I really, really like.
Like, it seems like a good time for it to come out, because we're kind of in that lull where the tidal wave hasn't hit yet. It's been a little while. Like, I feel like there's kind of like an indie RPG fan base. Like the people that, like, we had all that buzz about Golf Story at the time, and we haven't really seen, it's been a little while since we had like a small indie, you know, with that nostalgic RPG feel, but in a new pack, like new ideas sort of thing. So it seems like now's the time. Everyone's kind of getting off Smash, looking for something new. So hopefully it has some success.
Yeah. I mean, my thing with it, as I'm seeing the month unfold, I think it's like, I'm worried that it's not going to do well, mainly because I think something like Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition, which came out the week before it, and we're about to talk about, that coming out the week before, I think might kind of compete with it in a way.
Yeah, well, I'll let Donald lead the talk for Tales. I've been playing it myself, but Donald's doing the review, and I think he's much further than I am, so if you want to take it away, Donald.
Yeah, so I dug into Tales of Vesperia starting on Friday night. Good timing, because I think Final Fantasy IX was up on the Awesome Games Done Quick speedruns. And it's an action RPG, it's an RPG with an action battle system. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is that, unlike the last Tales game that we got on a Nintendo system, which was the remake of Tales of the Abyss, the characters in this game are actually likable.
Oh, really? Because that's why I hated Tales of the Abyss.
Like, with Abyss, I wanted to reach into my 3DS and punch the guy in the face. And I know that's supposed to be part of his redemption arc at some point, but he was so toxic, it wasn't even worth playing through to get that.
Yeah, like that's something that, I mean, not to go touch back to Y2K a little bit, but that's another game that, like, they make the main character kind of unlikable, but fortunately I think Y2K does the flip to make him better sooner than Tales of the Abyss did.
Yeah, because like that's like a 50-60 hour game versus Y2K being a 20-hour game.
Yeah, like I think by the end of hour 5 I was like, this guy sucks, but then by hour 10 I'm like, okay, he's all right.
Yeah, so it's basically you're playing as a character named Yuri, who's trying to save the lower quarters of the nation's capital from basically being flooded out because someone has stolen the thing that basically keeps the sewers from overflowing. And while you're chasing down the thief, you end up in the castle. You meet a girl named, well, her full official name is Estelise, but they call her, like, she goes by Estelle for most of the game. And yeah, because Estelise is kind of awkward to say. So, and you're going through and they're both looking for the same character, Flynn, who I haven't reached the point where I've met Flynn yet, but I'm pretty sure when I meet him, he's not going to be what I expect.
No. Well, and it's funny too, because they've been giving us like small snippets of him. Like, we're kind of seeing what he's up to in very small doses, and we hear about Flynn and his history like through Yuri and Estelle. But yeah, I haven't ran into him yet either.
Yeah, and he's really coming across sort of like you hear the stories of this great soldier who's doing everything before you, but you still have to clean up the mess. Like, you're the one who has to save the village from when its protective magical tree starts to die.
Yeah. Or, like, even early on when the assassin is trying to take out Flynn and comes across Yuri, and he's like, well, I'll just kill you instead.
Yep. Yeah. So, and David, you seem to enjoy the rest of the stuff, but I know from what you've mentioned elsewhere that, like, the battle system isn't clicking for you.
No, I mean, I'm not the biggest action RPG fan, and I think one of the things that, on top of that, is that I played Ni no Kuni 2 and kind of bounced off that hard, and the battle system really reminds me of it, where it's, so when you get into a battle, it's just this great big circle, and you kind of have free roaming of the circle, but it's still kind of like, it's a linear it's kind of linear, like a Street Fighter style, until you hold one button, which then allows you to, you know, run in anywhere in the area. But it felt dated a little bit to me. Just the setup, and I also didn't like it. Felt like the battle, like the actual inputs, there was some lag. Like, you know, I would try to attack, but it just felt like everything was like a half second behind.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could see that there was a lot of layers to the combat, so it's something that maybe the deeper I get in, the more maybe I'll come to like it more. Because the other part of it is that, for at least from what I've played so far, like the majority is just going through the story. Like the combat still is kind of few and far between for the most, like, so far anyway. Like, I've fought a couple bosses, but I haven't really been looking for fights.
Yeah, so. I haven't either, but I've been getting turned around coming out of villages just because, like, the camera angle changes each time you leave. So it's like, oh, I gotta go here. Oh crap, there's a bugbear. Oh, there's a bee. But I don't mind it because I've got some long-term familiarity with the Tales battle system, because I think I've played pretty much every Tales game that came out on PS3 for at least 5 hours. But I've never been able to beat one, and this is a grudge that's going back about 20 years. So I'm kind of glad that I got an excuse to play Vesperia, because from what long-term fans of the series have told me, it's sort of the best thing that's come out of the team that did Symphonia, and it might be the best game in the series.
Yeah, I've heard the same things myself.
Yeah,
and I know so far I've really enjoyed the dynamic between, like, right now I got 4 people in my party now, because I've got Yuri, Estelle, Carol, and Rita. And I've really enjoyed back and forth with like Yuri giving Carol a hard time all the time, because he's like, Carol is this younger character who's part of the Hunters Guild, so he's always kind of acting tough. And Yuri keeps playing pranks on him all the time.
Yeah. Well, you've got a 5th person though. It's just it's the dog.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Can't forget about the pupper.
Yeah, and it's funny because he doesn't talk, but they give him a personality. Like, it's like you can feel the personality, and I like how Estelle is like trying to befriend him, and the dog is like, will just keep walking away, and
yeah, like he's having none of it.
Yeah, or when Yuri is like pretending to the dog will, like, you know, woof woof, and then Yuri will say, oh well, you know, this is what he said, and they're like, you speak dog, and he's like, no. And so it's just like, just funny things like that. I enjoy, and it's one of the things that I haven't seen too much, because this is actually my first Tales game, and I find I enjoyed them. There's certain sections where you can hit the minus button and it brings up like a conversation, so it's not the actual like characters, sprites talking. It's like it's a square with the face, like an anime face, where they're kind of like talking in a like a little screen. I'm probably describing it poorly, but
yeah, they call them.
But some of the best conversations happen there.
Yeah, they call them skits, and basically it's literally talking anime heads, but they even managed to make those expressive, because depending on how the conversation's going for somebody, like theirs will shift position enough that like they back away from the thing, like, okay, I think I've seen enough.
Yeah.
So those kind of things are like, I'm actively looking for them, just because the writing in this game is really good.
Yeah, I really agree. Like, and they just do a really good job of doing, like, putting those little details in. Cause like you said, there's one of the earlier skits that I enjoyed was Estelle, like, trying to be friends with the dog, and then you just see, like, the dog square just run away. And then Yuri will come into the, like, his avatar will come in and start talking, and it's, and then their facial expressions too, because like you said, it's only their face, so then when you can see when they're getting embarrassed, or they're being or getting flustered, or the feet, like, there's one where, they're talking, they're underground, and Carol is asking, I think it's Carol is asking about, like, cave-ins or something, and Rita's like, oh, there's no cave-ins, and then Yuri starts, like, kicks rocks at Carol to freak him out, and this is all happening in the skit, so you could see the fear on Carol's face, so it's like you said, I love what they've done with the writing and the interactions. So
Yeah.
that's my favorite part. Like, so to me, like, it's the combat is like the work to get to the things I want to see.
Yeah, I like the challenge of trying to get through the combat as quickly as possible, because you do get extra rewards if you're able to finish off the enemies quickly. But there's been a couple of times where some of the techniques aren't firing, like you said, unless there's that half-second delay in there, which is weird because it seems like it runs really well. It's not. I think I think they said the combat was going to be 60 frames per second, and then everything else was going to be 30.
Yeah, like I don't think it's an issue with like the processing. I think it's just the engine that, like, because it's, you know, 10-year-old game now, so I think it's just a product of its time. Is the way I felt like it just, I don't know, it seems like an older style, and that's kind of, they just kept the combat the way it was back then.
Speaking of that original release, I was curious if, you know, what kind of changes were made in this remastered version. I don't think any of us have played the original release. I don't think many people played it. If I'm not mistaken, it was Xbox 360 exclusive. Is that right?
In America. It came out on PS3 in Japan, and like Tales series fans have been begging for this for years.
Yeah. It seems like they were really trying to appease those fans, or, you know, well, we hear you, you know, we're trying to give you what you want. And so I was curious about what this remastered version does differently, or if it adds any content or anything like that. Does anyone know about that?
The PS3 version in Japan did have a couple of extra side things that are in the remastered version. Okay. They based it on the PS3 version, but added the localization. So that's the chief difference, I think. I haven't encountered anything yet that hasn't been in the Xbox 360 version, like, to try and get through the game quickly. I do have an FAQ pulled up based on the 360 version, and nothing's missing as of yet. Right. But it's more later game stuff. But like, the Tales fans wanted this content for years, and like, this is the source of that infamous tweet from Bandai Namco Europe, which was like, yeah, not that one, when someone asked about Tales for PS3.
Yeah, I remember that situation, or that event happening. Has it gotten any graphical improvements, or does it, you know, have they changed the visuals or anything like that?
I have the 360 version. It doesn't seem to be different, but I haven't really run it on the same TV to say.
Okay.
Like they do, I think in the description they say like HD graphics, but
that's not saying much.
No, on the animation style, like it's not one of those things where it's like, okay, well, if it's in like 720 or 1080 or 4K, that you're going to notice a difference, because it's kind of like an anime, like, cartoon, like, look to it. So it's colorful and it looks nice, but it's not a game that's like pushing the envelope of, you know, the graphical process.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the reason I brought it up, is because I looked at the game and I'm like, oh, I know people are really excited about this, and there's a fair amount of buzz. But I looked at it and I'm like, this doesn't look all that impressive for a remaster. It feels like one of those remasters. It's more of a re-release, you know, and they're just kind of using that moniker, but there's they haven't really touched up that much, or they haven't done that much to kind of maybe earn that remastered title. So I thought I would ask if you guys had noticed anything.
Yeah, nothing major yet, but I mean, I'm playing on Switch. I'm not playing on like PS4, Xbox One. So
yeah, that's fair.
I'd imagine it. I don't know if I've heard anything specifically about how it runs on Xbox One and PS4, but I'd assume it probably looks a lot snazzier there.
I have no complaints, though. It looks good to me.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, it's nice that it scales down to the handheld pretty well as well.
Yeah, I have it. I look forward to playing it. Now that YIIK is done and Travis Strikes Again will be done by the end of this night, then maybe I'll have some time to play it.
Yeah,
I just gotta set aside 50 hours. That's
yeah. No, I mean, and by play it, I mean, like, there's no way I'm beating this game. I'm looking forward to, I don't know, 10 to 20 hours of fun, and then being like, I'm gonna YouTube the ending.
Yeah, I want to push myself through this, but like, I've been trying to I've had beat a Tales game as my gaming goal for about the last 5 years.
You really have to plan your whole year out to accommodate those 50, 60 plus hour RPGs. Like, it's not just, pick it up one day on a whim. I'll beat this. Like, you have to schedule it in your calendar and move things away from it. It's an endeavor for sure.
That's why I haven't bought Mario yet. That's why I haven't bought Y2K yet. Yeah. And I think most of my next weekend is going to be basically playing this game through. Like, it'll be back to the days when I was reviewing Xenoblade X and putting in 14-hour days.
Oh, man.
Wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, if it was going to be one of the Tales, this seems like a good one.
Yeah, because I think the best description of Tales, I heard it on Heaven Forfend, another RPG podcast, but basically the Tales.
What?
This one's a little bit more religious than the Thirsty Mage is, but
we can edit this part out.
Basically, the point.
They probably drink less beer than us.
Oh yeah, but the point is that the Tales games, they have a high floor, but they have a low ceiling. You get a pretty much average, but Tales of Vesperia, I think, is bumping up against that ceiling.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, someone had convinced me to pick up Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube, and I ended up paying more than I would have preferred for it, and I don't know if I even ever turned it on.
Yeah, I just waited. I think I bought Symphonia when it got remastered on PS3 for like $15.
Yeah, I paid more than $15 for mine, and I regret it to this day.
I think I saw the end of Symphonia, but I think a friend of mine had it. I wound up borrowing it from him and playing a good deal of it, and then wound up, I think we like played through the ending together or something. Like Symphonia, I remember being that. I mean, that's the most I've gotten into a Tales game.
Yeah, that's the same experience for me. Like, I played Symphonia on GameCube. I think my brother was probably playing it at the same time, and I kind of bounced off the combat. I think, was there some crafting or something to do with like cooking food? Is there something like that in the game?
It has literally been 15 years.
Yeah. Oh man.
Cooking and crafting though, still there.
Yeah.
But
just not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, but at least the chef who teaches you all the fancy recipes, at least he's funny.
Yeah, like if I was to summarize it, that's what I would go with, is that like some of the mechanics are kind of just okay or mad, but the personalities in the game are definitely worth the effort.
Yeah, this would be one banging anime if they went that route.
Well, we look forward to your review. I'm excited to hear how you enjoy it the further you get in, and I'm rooting for you to take that off your to-do list. Alrighty. Well, we'll move on to Jordan's been playing some. I think it's based on what you heard from Casey, right?
Yeah,
that you picked up Torna.
Yeah. So a couple months ago, we did an episode where we were talking about what we were playing, kind of like what we're doing tonight, and Casey talked about Torna, and I had my eye on it. Obviously, I finished the base game a while before, and I'd always, ever since Torna got announced, Torna the Golden Country, the expansion for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, ever since it got announced, I'd always been interested and wanted to see what people thought about it. And yeah, Casey was really positive on it. And so I went in with pretty high expectations. I think it was a Christmas gift, and so I played it just after Christmas up until the New Year. It's funny, we just finished our Game of the Year talks as well, and Torna got a lot of praise in a few different categories, including Game of the Year. And I found myself biting my tongue a lot during some of those discussions when it came to Torna.
You should have let the fury reign. Take down Xenoblade now. I didn't want to upset Don because I'm going to be podcasting with him and streaming with him on the telethon, and so wanted to keep him happy. I know he was a big fan. Didn't want to have it be awkward. Yeah, all of a sudden he just starts crying and is like, "You didn't like Torna."
Yeah, like, oh, we were supposed to stream together, and yeah, I'm definitely going to have some contrarian feelings here. Torna it's fun, but my big takeaway or my overall feeling after finishing it is, it doesn't deserve to be a standalone release. And so that's the release that I got. I got the cartridge with Torna on it, and in the box you get a code for the rest of the DLC. So all the other blade quests and I guess extra blades that you get and items and the challenge arena, which I'll talk about in a minute, you get all that stuff on a code, which is just printed on a piece of paper inside the box. So I started with Torna before I went back to Xenoblade, before I opened up the DLC or anything like that. I wanted to finish Torna because, again, I was really excited about seeing how it compared to the base game and if it kind of lived up to some of the hype it was getting. So I won't belabor what happens in the game too much of the story, but I did want to touch on some of the things that I liked and didn't like about it. The combat in Torna is definitely a step above the combat in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So for both games, it's kind of it's more definitely not turn-based. It's an action style where you're doing button presses and shifting characters in and out in order to do combos and to rack up damage. You do auto attacks, and those allow you to do abilities. And as you do more abilities, you're able to unleash even stronger attacks. And then you chain those all together, and things go boom. The combat in Torna is great because you can switch out the blades, and they do an attack when they come in, and you can attack as the blades, which is really fun. So you do get to experiment a bunch with the characters. That brings me to my first kind of gripe or complaint, is that you have the same party basically throughout the game. So you have Laura, who is the driver, and her blade Jin. You have anyone help me out here?
Adam?
Adam, yeah,
Adam?
Sorry. So you have Adam, who's the other driver, and people will remember him being mentioned in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and his blade is Mithra. And then the final driver is it's Bridget's no, not Bridget, Morag's ancestor, I suppose would be the right way. Niles, what is his name? The little fellow with the blue hairs is going to kill me. I'll come up with it in a sec. At any rate, so you've got the three drivers, and by the end of the game, they'll each have two blades. So the character I was thinking of is Hugo. So that's the relative or ancestor of Morag. And so Hugo's got the two blades that you would know from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Bridget and Aegean. Adam has Mithra, and I think one of the last blades you get is a character called Minoth. I believe he might be in the base game too. And then Laura has Jin and Hayes. Hayes, another character from the base game. So a lot of characters that you're recognizing, but once you meet those 9 characters, that's it. Your party is set from that point on. And yes, you can switch between drivers. You can switch the blades in and out, which is really fun. And they do different attacks, and the combos are easier to pull off. They've kind of really simplified the combat in Torna, and that part is fun. Like, you feel like you can do more damage, do more actions, make more things happen more easily. So that is kind of a nice thing. Music is still really good. But yeah, my I guess another main complaint for me is that the game is a lot smaller, there's less to it, I guess. There's 2.5 areas you go to, and in 2 situations you are gated off of the main story by doing side quests. You have to do, and it's not do one side quest, it's do X number of side quests. Like, you have to almost meet a quota, basically. And that, I mean, I didn't mind going through it. I really wanted to see the ending, but it really turned me off that the game, to create length, right? That we've got this padding in the form of doing numbers of side quests. And you could choose to do any of them. It wasn't related side quests. It was just do this number to raise your community level, which is basically just people who you've satisfied through doing their side quest. Raise this community level, and then you can do the next story beat. So yeah, I just didn't like the way it kind of artificially increased the length by stopping everything. Let's stop the story and just go and do random things. So that just didn't feel right to me. Am I the only one on the pod who's played Torna? I think we've almost all of us played Xenoblade.
Yeah,
but,
I think so. Yeah. Like, I really loved Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I've had something stuck in my craw about Torna.
Yeah.
That I just, I don't know. And it was even before it came out. I just had an issue with it. I don't know if it's just, like, I absolutely, positively loved Xenoblade 2, but it's just, I wasn't sure if it, like, I was almost at the point where I was kind of just done.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm ready for the next one anyway. I don't need to go back to it with, like, this short other story, and I was worried that maybe it would affect the way I felt about 2 if I didn't enjoy Torna. And then when it finally came out, getting that kind of mixed reaction for people, it just kind of cemented like, I don't know if I really need to play this then. Like it doesn't sound like, it sounds like if you were a big fan of Chronicles 2.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. It was probably one of my top 3 games in 2017 when it came out. Like I loved it. I couldn't put it down. We were so conflicted when we were talking about best RPGs last year. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Octopath were like neck and neck for me. And I think it's one of the best RPGs, not just on the Switch, but of this generation of the last 5 years. It's totally awesome. And so to play Torna, it almost cemented more of that fact, like that I really, really love the base game. And I was constantly just comparing the two, and I don't think that worked out in Torna's favor.
It's weird because I kept hearing that I should play Xenoblade 2, the base game, first, because Torna would ruin the rest of Xenoblade 2 for me.
How do you mean ruin, Donald?
Well, apparently the improvements to the improvements to the combat system and the fact that it's, a 20-hour game as opposed to something that would take me 6 weeks of nonstop play to finish is, I think, the big deal.
Yeah, so obviously Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a huge game, and it's going to take a long time. Like if you don't have a plan to play that game, if you haven't set aside time, it's going to be really hard to make time for it. It's I wouldn't call it a slog. Like you would really enjoy it if it's not your type of game, but it is lengthy, and you do want to see it through. So
it's 90 hours.
Yeah, it's significant. Yeah. But Torna is by comparison microscopic. Like it is very compact and I think pretty easy to get through to the ending. I just found it thoroughly lacking in the satisfaction I got from playing through Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The exploration, the areas, the discovery, the different enemy types, like a lot of that was missing. And maybe in the New Game Plus there's a little bit more to it, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the base game, has a New Game Plus, and I could get into that as well. But I was certainly not as high on it as some other people NWR people.
And I think my other issue with it is one of the things I enjoyed a lot about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was collecting and unlocking blades and finding different combinations.
Yeah,
because I really enjoyed moving blades around and coming up with different styles of attack, especially later in the game when different I guess I don't know, it's been out for a while, so I guess it's not really a spoiler.
No, I'll just go for it.
Like with Nia, when she becomes either a blade or a driver, like it really opens up a lot of options. Mm-hmm. And characters become very powerful. Like especially like late in the game, Nia becomes powerful. Mithra is very powerful. Like it's, and then building up the blades. Like certain blades have side quests that make them stronger, and it's just I just felt like the things that I enjoyed about Xenoblade wouldn't be in Torna.
Yeah.
So I kind of just, didn't bother.
Yeah, so I was talking about the areas in the game. So I think Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has about 10 main areas, maybe 12, something like that. There's two main ones.
Big damn game.
Yeah, it is huge. In Torna, there's Torna proper, the Tornan Titan. That's one area. Inside the Tornan Titan, there's the capital city, I guess. I don't remember the name, but the city is considered one area of the game. And then there's I just had it. Gormott is the third area, the second main area. So there just isn't that much. And even those areas that do exist, they're so much smaller and compact compared to any of the Titans in the base game. Like there's just not that many areas to see. You're going to see basically the whole map for all of those places just playing through the story. So there's not a lot of incentive to kind of run around and explore that much, because you're going to get to those places anyways, and you're going to probably have to do that because of the side quests, right? The side quests will take you to all like the corners of the maps, as close together as they may be. So yeah,
and they probably weren't as like Uriah was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And Tantel, I think that's the correct name for it, the turtle
right.
there. Like the snow, like that was I mean, it was beautiful in a different way.
Sure.
Like it's kind of like the frozen tundra, but it felt like home again.
And yeah, exactly. And I remember being blown away by those areas, right? Like they seemed so huge and dense and magnificent, majestic, these kind of adjectives. But there's nothing really like that in Torna the Golden Country. Even Torna, where you get to like a desert place and it's new, it is new, it is different, but you don't get those same feelings of, wow, this environment is just amazing. I can't wait to explore all of this.
Well, and then the ruins of Tantal, those were amazing.
Yeah.
Like the massive ruins on there, exploring that, and we've talked about it a few times, the cherry blossoms of Uriah, and then I can't remember the one Rex's home Titan.
Yes.
The way that they're intricate, there's a bunch interconnected, and they were beautiful in their own
sure,
way as well.
Those places were all really unique. They all had features that made them stand out, and they just had scale to them. I feel like that's the key idea here, is that they seemed immense compared to the size of your characters. You could spend all these minutes or maybe an hour running across all these places, but it just isn't the same in Torna. You can go from one end of the map to the other in just in a couple minutes. It's really fast. And so you open up fast travel points, but you don't even really need to use them that much, because if you wanted to go from A to B, it doesn't take you very long at all. So, yeah.
Are the characters as memorable as Neal and Morag?
Yeah,
and
I'm glad
YIIK?
you asked. I feel like there just isn't that much interaction with them. There's a handful of cutscenes that are voiced. Most of the dialogue, of course, is just on screen and you're reading it. What I was really looking forward to, or I thought might be really great, is there's these campfires, and so in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, when you complete side missions, you are accumulating experience, but it doesn't pay off right away. You kind of bank it. And then when you go to rest at an inn or something like that, you can cash in the experience and raise your levels.
I really like that mechanic.
It's great, because you can kind of choose your own difficulty, so to speak, right? You could choose, okay, I want to be stronger than these enemies, so I'm going to cash in all my experience points now. But you never had to do that. If you wanted more of a challenge, again, you can kind of dictate what you want it to be. So there is the resting mechanic, and spending those experience points does come back here. But when you do rest, you have two other options besides resting. You can craft items that go in your pouches, which just kind of give you boosts to stats. So that comes back from the base game. And then there's like a chat kind of, or party chat kind of another option that you have. And I thought, oh wow, these are going to be really. This is the chance to get to know these characters. This is going to be the comedy that I've been looking for, the heart, the soul, I guess. But they're not voiced. They're very basic. They almost just kind of talk about the mission that's coming up, and they almost kind of refresh your memory about what you're supposed to do, rather than being any kind of flavor or, again, kind of bonding you with these characters. Those moments just don't really happen in the game. So I never felt very close with Laura, who's kind of the main character. Her relationship with Jin, that's probably the most that you get. But Adam and Mithra, you don't get a lot. I know people talked about, you get to see all this crazy character development with Mithra, and you really maybe sympathize with her by the end. I don't think there's that much of that. I think that you do get a little bit, but for the most part, I thought she was really standoffish and doesn't really develop that much as a character. So I didn't quite see what other people were talking about. And then with Hugo and his two blades, he's very dry. It's compared to Morag. Morag is the much more likable and interesting character. And I get it, you're not spending as much time in Torna with this cast of characters as you do in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but the game doesn't do anything to kind of compensate for that. If the game is shorter and there's less content, you have to kind of find other ways to make the characters more real, or to help the player form bonds with those characters. And it just doesn't really happen.
I think you've pretty much validated my decision not to bother with Torna.
Yeah, I don't like to kind of push people away from it, but if you've really enjoyed the base game and that's what you're looking for more of, I don't think that's what you get. I think you get a refined combat system that's really fun. But in terms of story and character development and kind of those moments that have more charm or soul to them, or humor, there just isn't really anything like that. there's a couple of really minor characters that travel with you, and they're just not fleshed out at all. So even characters that are in your group that you don't fight with, I don't remember their names. They're two kind of children-looking characters. One is Mikhail, actually, or Mikhail. He's in the base game. I don't know how that's possible. I guess he's really old or something. But at any rate, you find him and he's kind of been abandoned or orphaned or something like that. And I thought, oh yeah, they're really gonna help us sympathize with this character. But there's nothing really at all. Like they're just kind of there. And moments don't pay off in the ending of the game because you haven't really bonded with these characters like you do in the original. So. Yeah, overall, it's a fine game. I don't think it should have been released as a standalone game. I think as the final piece of story content for a season's pass or a DLC expansion pass, I think it's good. But it doesn't pay off in the way that I was hoping it would. The ending's really good. It's worth it took me, I think, about 17 hours to finish it. And I did a few more side quests than I needed to. I didn't do everything. Wouldn't say I rushed through it either. I kind of took my time, but yeah, about 17 hours to roll credits on that one. And the ending, I wouldn't say the ending is worthwhile, but the final parts of the game are definitely worth getting to. That's kind of my final verdict on Torna. I'm a little torn by it, pun intended, but I got it there. Nailed it. It's I don't know, up and down for me. Yeah.
Cool. Well, how about Neal bring us home with a little bit of discussion about Mario and Luigi?
So I'm really early in Mario and Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story, and wait, hold on.
Bowser Jr.'s Journey?
I'm not even... Yeah, Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story, plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey.
Say that five times fast.
I have not played Bowser Jr.'s Journey yet. I also never played the Superstar remake. But Casey Gibson did, and he has a review of both of those up on the website, including a video review of Bowser's Inside Story on 3DS. So I'm like an hour or two into that, but I'm reminded of how good Bowser's Inside Story is. I think in the endless, maybe not as inventive iteration of the Mario and Luigi series, and the fact that we've just been getting remakes there on a system that no one really wants those games on anymore, we've lost sight on how when the Mario and Luigi series works, it's tremendous. I think Superstar Saga on Game Boy Advance still holds up and is an awesome game. It really is the heir apparent to Super Mario RPG. Fun fact that I think people either know or just forget all the time. A lot of the people who worked on Super Mario RPG are at Alpha Dream, who has spent the past 15, 20 years making these Mario and Luigi RPGs. So like if you wanted more Super Mario RPG, they're kind of making them. And I think Bowser's Inside Story is the peak of the series. And playing it on 3DS is reminding me of how well it just does the best things of those games. The blend of gameplay between Mario and Luigi and Bowser is really fun. Bowser is written hysterically in this game, and also the big bad is Fawful, who people who have played the Mario and Luigi games would know from Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story. But my general rule of thumb with all these Mario and Luigi games is that if Bowser and Fawful are big parts of it, that game's going to be great. Because the gameplay is solid. Like even people lament Paper Jam. I think Paper Jam was still fun, even if I think the story was threadbare and bad. But the combat in adding in Paper Mario was a great time. It's a great combat system. It's a great foundation. It's just they need to add. They need to make sure that the core around that, the story and everything else, is engaging. And I think Bowser's Inside Story nails that. So that's my maybe don't throw out your 3DS yet. There's an RPG worth playing on it. Multiple even.
There's one coming out next month. Actually, two.
Etrian Odyssey Nexus, which we will hopefully be talking a lot more of within the next month.
And Yokai Watch 3,
No, I forgot about games that I don't care about. I think I reviewed both Yokai Watch games, the first two, and the first one I was like, this is promising. Maybe they'll fix it in the sequel. The sequel was just worse. The sequel was so painfully just the first game with like a time travel hook. And that was it. I've heard the third one's a lot better, but like I'm done with that series.
I think we've seen a little bit of the fourth one that's coming to Switch, although it probably won't come to the West until the fifth one comes to Japan, because we seem to be at least one entry behind. But the fourth one seems to have done away with the your characters or your yokai do their own thing. It seems like I don't think I remember one image, but it looked more like Ni no Kuni's combat, or more action based. So hopefully they fix that, because that's the thing I hated about that series, is that you don't control your character's attacks. Basically, they attack kind of on their own, and I found that very frustrating.
Isn't that sort of how Xenoblade works?
But you're choosing to use abilities and stacking up combos. Like this is much more.
That was a trolley comment, but
very good.
Actually,
very good.
I mean,
I will ask you not to name them in the same.
Yeah,
sentence.
we're definitely cutting. We're cutting that.
I mean, I think there's
podcast.
similarities to be made in the way that the Xenoblade series as a whole handles combat versus Yokai Watch.
Yeah.
Obviously they are aiming for completely different audiences, but I mean, when I was just thinking of the Yokai Watch battle system and how that was one of the parts of the game that I didn't like get tired of. Like I think you can do cool things with that kind of hands-off management style in an RPG, and I think those cool things are like how it's orchestrated in the Xenoblade games. So Yokai Watch might be a bad application of that battle system, but I you know what? I actually think the comparison to the Xenoblade series and Yokai Watch isn't terrible.
I don't know. That's the hottest take of 2019 from Neal Ronaghan here. I don't know how we got to talk about Yokai Watch, but I actually really like the
it's a relevant game coming out in February on 3DS. It's already out. It's already out in Europe. We have a review on the site. I bet you guys didn't know we had a review of Yokai Watch 3 on the website already.
The only reason I know that is I think I edited it when Dawn did it, right? I think, and I probably edited it for him, but otherwise I wouldn't have known. I definitely had forgotten about that series.
I think he enjoyed it, but like,
yeah.
I hope the fourth Yokai Watch game is good. That'd be fun.
Yeah, if they change some of the mechanics, I think it definitely got a lot of potential. I like the exploring of the world. I like the capturing of yokai, and that you kind of have to do separate tasks and side quests for them. I think it's got some fun elements. I just hated the combat.
I think the first 5 to 10 hours of the first game were like amazing, and then I was like, oh, that was your trick. Yeah. Cool.
I got to like a boss battle, and I was so underleveled, and I hated the combat. I'm like, I am not grinding in this game because it is terrible.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of those things where I think Pokemon is a game that is still fun for everybody, but Yokai Watch is just, it's a game made for children.
Yeah.
And
sure.
If you're an adult getting enjoyment from Yokai Watch, cool. But it just seems like Yokai Watch more than Pokemon was so nakedly made to be tied to a cartoon.
Yeah.
Which probably made sure it had a better presentation than some Pokemon games, but that's it.
Okay, so I refuse to end the show talking about Yokai Watch. So I'm going to throw out a quick prediction. Well, I was going to ask whether or not what comes first, a new Mario Luigi RPG on Switch, or Super Mario RPG added to the online catalog.
Oh, I thought you were going to go
question.
something with Paper Mario, and the answer to that is Paper Mario is never going to be an RPG again, and we all need to just move on with our lives.
Yeah, I'm giving up on that.
I hope I'm wrong.
No, I'm curious. Will we see a new Mario RPG of some type, like a Mario Luigi or something, on Switch?
David, can I add a third option? Or sure. Color Splash gets ported to Switch.
I don't think Color Splash
is there any chance? Like, it came out so late for the Wii U.
I mean, like, there's always a chance.
Yeah.
Color Splash is a game that I wish I didn't hate playing it, because everything else about that game's awesome. It looks gorgeous.
It just came
like,
out so
the
late.
writing is hysterical.
Yeah.
But like that battle, that if we're talking about bad battle mechanics,
yeah.
Like that's it. that's a bad battle mechanic.
I was not going to buy a full price Wii U title at that point. Like, we'd moved on, right? Like, it was, I don't know about you guys, but I was done with that. I was playing 3DS exclusively or PS4 or something. I was not going to buy any more Wii U titles after, I think Mario Maker was probably the last one I bought, which was awesome.
I bought Paper Mario for full price, but I was also testing something for the website that ended up with me getting the game 2 weeks early.
That's not bad.
So, what do you guys think comes first of those three? What do you think we'll see first on Switch?
I'm looking at that rumored leaked list of Super Nintendo games,
which is, by the way,
it doesn't have Mario RPG on it. Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't. All right. That was because then that would have been slam dunk.
Yeah. So it was funny. So we got. I'll go first. We got Super Mario RPG on the Wii U Virtual Console. Is that right? I'm not mistaken about that.
It was 2016, I think we got
right.
it.
So
it never came out on the 3DS.
I was hoping it was going to come to the 3DS,
or maybe
too.
only in Japan.
I think it was. Yeah,
I was hoping for that because that would have been my optimal place to replay that game.
Same
would have
here.
been on 3DS.
I would have bought that day one. Yeah, so Japan only for Mario RPG. I think we will get it on the Super when Super Nintendo games come to the Switch, which seems like an inevitability. I think that's going to happen before the next Mario and Luigi. And the reason I say that is they're doing these remakes of the games on 3DS. And I don't know that you're going to get another Mario and Luigi game in 2019. So we've already got Bowser's Inside Story. So that's at least a year before the next one comes out, probably longer. And we think
that the difference between Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story, year and a half, year and change.
Sure. And
16 months, I think, September of 2017.
There you go. So probably 16 months at least for the next game to come out. They might even do Partners in Time for whatever reason. They might do that for 3DS or Switch. I don't know. But Super Mario RPG, I think that's got a decent chance of coming to the Switch in 2019. I think if they do the same thing, they roll out 20 games at launch when it comes to Switch, and then maybe do 2 or 3 Super Nintendo games a month, I think that's an easy one to have as one of the first 2 or 3 months of rolling out games continuously. So Super Mario RPG has got my vote.
Was Mario RPG on the SNES Classic?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I agree with your logic because I'm also looking at Mario and Luigi games. If we think that Alpha Dream is the only person that's going to make a Mario RPG,
I think so.
Which
I think so.
I think is the case.
Yeah, it's theirs.
I think 2021 is when we would see that because they're actually pretty much every 2 years dating like So let's just do the Superstar Saga was 2003, Partners in Time was 2005. Then a 4-year gap between that and Bowser's Inside Story. Then
and a new console, of course. Yeah,
and then a 4-year gap between Bowser's Inside Story and Dream Team. And then they come out with a game every 2 years since Dream Team was 13, Paper Jam 15, Superstar Saga 17, Bowser's Inside Story. Technically, it came out December 2018 in Japan. I think 2021 at the earliest, so I would say Super Mario RPG. However, depending on how technical David is being about this, I think we'll see a Mario plus Rabbids sequel before Super Mario RPG comes out on the Switch.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I think you might be right about that.
Because I think wasn't there something, there was like some like contest. I came across something like going on Twitter or forum or something, seeing that Ubisoft is doing a Mario plus Rabbids fan contest that seems to end around E3.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And Ubisoft, like no duh, after the success of Mario plus Rabbids, Ubisoft was like, make another one.
Yeah, it sounds like a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And I believe there was some talk when that Donkey Kong DLC pack came out that like there was an interview in which they were like, oh no, it was a very small team because everyone else was busy.
Busy, right?
So,
but they'd be using the same assets, so I don't think it would take that long.
No,
yeah,
it
no. I mean, like,
I think
that's why I think Mario plus Rabbids sequel will come out before Super Mario RPG comes out on Switch. And that's technically a Mario RPG, even if it's not Mario and Luigi. But really, I posted it on Twitter, a comment about how I just want to see Alpha Dream, like, make a new game. Because basically been making or remaking the same game since 2003. And, like, those games have been pretty good. Like, I don't think they're bad, but, like, you've done everything with that. I don't think there's anything new to do.
Yeah, it would be nice to see something new. We've gotten... I think the gameplay has gotten stale. It's fun. They're charming games. The writing's always good, but it is the same basic game that they've been doing for more than a decade. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see something new.
I have fallen in love. My mentions got a little out of hand. With this, I think at this point, my tweet being like, Alpha Dream should do something else has like a buttload of likes. Like, not to toot my own horn, but no. And a thing organically happened in my mentions. I think probably because someone with a bigger follower base retweeted it. But a bunch of people just started pitching a Wario and Waluigi idea.
Make it happen.
Which, like, I am all about
Wario and Waluigi partners in crime.
Oh,
yes,
that's it. That's the game. That's the game.
Yeah.
Sell it.
The game sold itself.
That's what I want. I don't think it'll happen because I think that Nintendo exists in a world where Waluigi isn't a real character.
Yeah.
Well, he's not. He's Camelot's fan fiction.
I mean, even if it's just like a Wario RPG set in the land of WarioWare,
yeah,
like that's enough for me. Like, just have it be like a Mario and Luigi game, but it's Wario. And he's got partners, and his partners are the other characters from WarioWare.
I mean, you
could have, like, you could have Jimmy, you could have Mona, you could have Cat and Anna, Gerbil and Spitz.
Ashley is a mage.
Yep. Let's make that. Someone make a micro, and oh my god, all the attacks could be micro games. I want that more than Wario and Waluigi.
I'll take your Ubisoft Mario and ratchet up one notch. I'm curious if they will take elements from Super Mario RPG and add them into a new Mario Rabbids. If we see Geno
I mean,
added to that game.
That just seems like it's got so many layers to get through because I think that Square Enix needs to give approval for any use of that character. So you would be going through Square, Nintendo, and Ubisoft for that. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that it's highly unlikely.
Yeah, I cannot see Square signing off.
I'm just curious. I do see some kind of Super Mario RPG coming out this year. Just because, like, we've had the we're not going to get another Odyssey type game this year.
Yeah, we are. Well, not this year. I mean, we could.
Not this year.
I think next year is possible.
And that...
We just got... Look at EPD Tokyo's history, man. EPD Tokyo is a machine.
Yeah.
I just feel like the RPG's the next Mario to come, though. Like, we've had Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey, Mario Tennis,
Mario Golf. Mario Golf is next. Mario Golf.
Yeah, we need strikers, baseball.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So but then when you talked about the Mario Rabbids, I'm like, yeah, that's probably the RPG we'll see this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Alpha Dream's probably working on another Mario Luigi game or something to that effect. I just hope it's on Switch, and I hope it's something newer.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing, like, I don't know how they would do it, but I wouldn't mind seeing Partners in Time come to Switch with some new mechanics or something like that. Like, just take one of those games that they haven't done yet, they haven't remastered or remade, and just bring it to Switch and try some. You don't have the two screens necessarily, but Partners in Time was GBA, right? So you didn't need it. But yeah,
no, Partners in Time was DS.
Oh, was DS? Yeah. Oh man, yes, yeah. I never played that one, so
it was a real early DS game. I played through all of that. I got it for Christmas that year, and played it over Christmas break.
Okay,
and I remember EGAD was in it, and you did a lot of thing with the babies. That's it. Is it
like decidedly of those first three games? Is it definitely the worst one? Not a bad game, but
it is historically seen as the black sheep. I was talking to friend of the show, Seren McNulty, about it, in which she sang the praises of Partners in Time, saying that it's a lot better than you remember it. Which like. Do I agree with every RPG take from Seren? No, but if I'm going to trust anybody that's not myself with an RPG take like Seren's usually on the money.
It's just funny that they skipped that one in favor of doing Bowser's Inside Story. Like, I don't know if it's the reception of that game.
Because Fawful and Bowser are better.
Yeah.
They actually, there's a Game Informer. Hold on.
Here we go.
I read this today. I think it's from a Game Informer interview. I'm going to go see if I can find it.
Thirsty Mage, place where you get all your up-to-date news from Game Informer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but yeah, to answer the question, I think we'll see a new Mario RPG before we get Mario RPG on the Switch.
Yeah.
All right. Why? Oh, wait. Here's some relevant questions.
Here we go.
From a Game Informer interview with Alpha Dream. Why isn't this remake on Switch? It has to do with the timing for it releasing on 3DS as opposed to Switch. We did think about Switch, but we wanted to maintain the gameplay using the dual screen of the original. That's the main reason we decided to port to 3DS. Is this Alpha Dream's last 3DS game? We still don't know that yet. I'll say that that's a crock of shit.
Yeah,
they know it.
They know.
They're working on something else. Yeah. You don't just stop.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Let's see.
And I can't see too many new 3DS games from Nintendo coming around.
I mean, when was the last one?
No, I mean, I think 3DS is dead in 2019. Yeah. I don't think we're going to see any new games. Why skip Partners in Time as you remake the Mario and Luigi games?
Here we go.
The response to that was the biggest point was that Mario and Luigi 3, Bowser's Inside Story, was the best received title in the series. Okay. So we really wanted to do a remake of that. And we also really like the idea of portraying Bowser and Bowser Jr. as a parent and child in the new mode, which is similar to the mode we added to the Superstar Saga remake. Also, the character Fawful was received very well overseas, so we wanted to bring him back, and we wanted to show the continued saga with him that we started with Bowser's Minions in the remake of Superstar Saga.
All right. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good enough. That answers the question for sure. I'd still like to see Partners in Time come back somehow just to get a chance to try that game out. So, but probably not on 3DS. If that game does get remade, it will certainly come to Switch, if anywhere.
Well, this is a much better note to end the show on, I think. Alrighty. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And thank Donald for his first time on the pub. It sounds like we'll probably have you back in March.
Yeah, hopefully, and possibly again in April.
You should be a regular in no time, so you'll have to make sure to have some form of beer stocked in the fridge. So.
And before we go, we should probably plug the NWR live stream for Child's Play Saturday, January 26th. If we raise enough money, we'll go until 3 a.m. my time. And if you raise even more than that, you can drop a Sword of Damocles on top of my head.
Is Devil's Third technically an RPG?
No, it is not.
We should do an episode on Devil's Third.
What number do we have to get to, Donald? That seems like a tempting prize there. Tempting reward.
We have to set a new site record, which would require $7,243.
Yeah. And if you want to ensure that happens, make sure that you're donating early, because I believe it's all donations up until the 22nd will be doubled up to $2,000. So
yeah, that's right.
If we can get 2,000 by the 22nd, it'll be 4,000 right away, and we're already halfway to Donald's demise. But hopefully, well, you'll be. The good thing is that if you are forced to play through that game, you'll just be that much more thankful when the RPGs come in right after.
Exactly. Although I do have to go buy some eShop cards this week to have on standby in case the worst happens.
Just remember, Donald, you're doing it for the kids. It's all worth it.
Yeah, I know.
As painful as it may be.
So, like Donald said, he really wants to play Devil's Third, so make sure you donate right away. And head over to NintendoWorldReport.com. There's a link to the donation and all the information about the live show. So on that note, I will say good night to everybody, and thanks for coming out.
Good night, David. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye.